In this video, we're going to go over the right side icons on your tracker. So once you're on your tracker view, you will notice that there's several icons on the right hand side. The first one is your lists, and this is how you go from area to area in the ER, or you can view the on-call patients or the patients you've signed up for in the last 3 days, find an account, or look at your ED discharges. The next one would be to go back to your tracker. And then the third option is your on-call staff. This is a view only of your on-call staff that the unit clerks would have filled out completely in a different section. So if you do need to edit this on-call staff, you will need to return to the main menu and click on Enter Edit EDM On-Call. Back on our tracker, we'll see that the next icon is the clinical data. Clinical data will be accessed once you have highlighted the patient that you are working with. So for example, I'm going to work with Daisy, and the clinical data is going to pertain to her. So I'm going to click on clinical data, and from here I can update any height and weight information. I can also put in an isolation status. And we can know a little bit more about isolation status by accessing Meditech Magic for a view-only option to look at the patient's history for MRSA, VRE, any respiratory or reverse isolation, whatever the case. So let's say we can put this person on contact precautions, and it will save that information. The next icon at the top is the additional icon, and this is where you can put a temporary location for your ER patient. So let's say, for example, this person's going to go to GI for several hours, and I can put in here GI, and on the name bar up here, once I save it, you will see that the GI appears in parentheses, indicating that the patient is an ER patient, but they're currently in a temporary location. Back to the clinical data. Once you're done with that additional location, you can just delete it and it will go away. The next icon is your dietary. Here you can see the diet that is ordered for your patient, and you can also put any likes or dislikes for the kitchen to see when they're preparing the patient's meal. Back on the clinical data, the next icon is for allergies. Here you can edit the allergies by selecting this little edit box. And if the patient has no known allergies, it's as easy as just clicking this icon and saving. Otherwise, you would search in the box for your allergy. And once you click on that, it will appear in the top here, and all you have to do is select the allergen and save. The next icon is for home medications. Now, home medications need to be filled out by the nurse. It's ultimately the primary nurse's responsibility. Even if we have a pharmacy tech on duty, they may not get to all of the patients, so it does fall back on the primary nurse responsibility to fill out the home medications, especially if the patient is going to be admitted. So in order to do that, you're going to click on this little edit icon, and you're going to enter a home medication by name. Once you start searching for the medication, it will come up on the list. And what you want to do is, if you know all of the information, for example, you know the dose, the route, and how often the patient takes it, you want to open as many strings until you have exhausted the options. This way, when you click on that last option, all of the information will carry over to the top. If you simply put in, if you simply select the word, let's say my patient's on glucagon, if I just click on the word, it will only pull up that word without any dosing information. So you want to be sure to open as many strings as you can so that you can have all of your fields filled in. And then you can put in when they last took the dose. The live system will talk to the pharmacies that dispense information, dispense medication, so that you can bring up the current medication to the top of the list. Then you will just click save, and your meds will be there. The next icon is patient pharmacies. This icon will be updated by the physician or PA, whoever sees the patient, but we do have the ability to edit. So if the patient happens to tell us their pharmacy of preference, we can always edit that for them. And then your special indicators are indicators that will follow the patient every visit that they have until somebody takes it off. So for example, right now our special indicators include aggressive violent behavior, child welfare alert, fall precaution, hearing and vision assistance, language assistance, multi-drug resistant organism, and transgender. So if any of these apply to your patient, you're going to click on that, and you're going to click on that and save. And then that information will display in this little eye icon above in the patient header. So if you click on that eye, you can see that I've put in special indicators of fall precaution, and that will follow the patient every visit that they have until somebody deletes it. And that's the end of the clinical data. The next icon is to reassign ED staff. So let's say that you have a couple of patients in this section, and it's time for you to give report to the oncoming nurse. Or maybe you have two different nurses that you will be given report to. You're going to click on reassign ED staff, and you're going to select ED nurse. So your name will pop up in the first line, and you're going to then select who you're going to give report to. So let's say I'm giving report to Diana, but I'm only giving her 3 patients. So I will select the 3 patients that I gave report to Diana on and apply those ED nurse changes at the bottom, this icon at the bottom, and then save. And then if I'm still working, I have those 3 patients, or if I'm giving those 3 patients to another nurse, I will then select their name and then click on the remaining patients that I'm going to give to David. Then I'm going to click apply ED changes and save, and that will automatically reassign those patients to those 2 nurses. Back on the tracker view, you will see that the next icon is for consent forms. This is where you will see all of the consent forms that the providers have obtained or the unit clerks have obtained. For example, the blood consent forms or the pre-op consent forms, the consent to treat, all of this will display in this section. So for example, if you have a patient who's getting blood and you need to fill in a blood pickup order, this is where you'll confirm that there is indeed a consent for blood. It's no longer going to be on paper. This patient doesn't have any, but this is where they would be. The next icon is for calls. This section will display calls that are being done, that have been done by the providers in the ER. So every shift, the PAs and the attendings will call back their own patients, and the information will be displayed here. So if a patient calls in and says, I missed a call from the ER, I don't know who called me, we can start by looking at the call section and seeing if their name appears and who called them, who attempted to call them, and who they can return a phone call to. We're not going to give any results over the phone. We're just going to direct them as to who called them. If their name does not appear in this list, then it's safe to assume that perhaps it was a hospital survey calling them because they're not on our call list. The next icon is for risk management. Risk management will display here any incident reports that risk management team or your manager or director has kicked back to you for more questions, to fill out more information, or to give you updates on the results of your incident report. In order to exit here, you will just go to the E and exit out of that screen. The next icon is the reception screen. This is what we will use to put in all of our walk-ins and EMS patients or our call-ins by primary care providers. The next icon is the triage icon. So it's another way to highlight the patient that you want to do the triage on, and then just click triage, and that will bring you to choose the documents that you want to fill out. The next icon is your ED summary. This is the summary that you will preview. You can preview this, click OK, and it will bring up a little ED summary on the corner here. Click on that. And this is a summary of everything that was done in the ER. So medications, assessments, vital signs, treatments. The only thing that will not be here is your radiology results. So we will print this screen or this documentation for patients that are being transferred. Patients that will be going up to the floor for admission will not require us to print out an ED summary because the floor nurses could see our documentation. The next icon is the ED snapshot. Here you can see the patient's triage note, you can see their old visits, emergency admitted or ambulatory visits. You have a calculator if you'd like to use it. You have a calendar that you can reference. You also have quick links to websites that we may use during our workday. And then in the bottom you have your ED mental health and psychiatric crisis consultation documentation. So as the crisis team does their documentation, it will pull into this section so that we can easily see what the patient is waiting for, whether they're waiting for a consult, to sober up, a bed search, whatever the case may be. We can easily see that in this report. Back on the tracker view, the next icon is to sign up, and it's as easy as highlighting the patient that you want to sign up on and clicking sign up, and you will see your first name display on the RN section. The next two will be to open and close a chart, and then the last two icons, management and preferences, do not apply to us, so you don't have to worry about that. So that is our tracker icons on the right hand side.